Hello all, we are back for the second discussion about the emergence and evolution of martial music. Today we focus upon the Middle East. Some of the stuff inspiring serious violence was very difficult to deal with in the context of the surprise attack over the October 7th Simchat Torah Shabbat and holiday. I am coming at this from the perspective of a Jewish male who grew up on Long Island, New York. Someone from a different background would likely view the situation from a different lens. I've been spending decades singing happy nigunim melodies and playing bass guitar in projects like a Celtic punk bluegrass Hasidic band. My grandfather was born in an area, Michalishka near Vilna, where 95% of the Jewish population was among the 6 million of Europe murdered in the Shoah, and another 200,000 at the end of the First World War. My perspective is one where another million or so residents of minority Jewish Sephardic communities and Mizrahi communities, through irrational and targeted violence, were ethnically cleansed from pre-Islamic lands where they had lived for at least 3 millennia. Less than 1% remain, but the majority of the martial songs we will discuss today relate to armed groups who want to exterminate those descendants. I am confident in history showing we dare remain alive. My people will remain a resilient people, no doubt indigenous to a forever contested land. I will also try to find some balance with non-Islamic music related to conflict. The Hebrew Vibration Achdus project was a 2005 compilation CD sold to raise funds for charities that supported Gush Katif, the largest Jewish community in Gaza at the time. In the case of the Loving Gush Katif project, the goal was to help victims of peace gestures. Their forced evacuation of Gaza did not do much to reduce the risk of violence on innocent victims near the zone. These victims include normal people taking buses in Israel, visiting pizza places like Sbarro, and thousands of people who went to the Supernova Festival, just wanting to have a good time raving and dancing in the desert. I can speak about the evolution of psytrance hard techno in Israel and the influences from Goa Israel and Flanders, but the main thing is that terrorists shut down the international music scene there, and that is unfair collateral damage.
7 other days of the week. Land for terror is a crime.
Gush Katif will not be used in rhyme.
8 nights, 8 lives, not a go. We still fight for our right to exist in the storms of this night. Gush Katif.
8 Nights, 8 Lights by White Shabbos. I joined the band on bass guitar shortly after this recording. The use of martial music in political propaganda videos in the Middle East over the past 20 to 30 years is primarily associated with jihadist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. These groups have utilized Nasheeds, which are a cappella songs praising their prophet Muhammad and reciting Quranic verses glorifying jihad in their propaganda efforts. Nasheeds are historically rooted in Islamic traditions and are characterized by male voices singing without instrumental accompaniment. They have been used strategically by these groups to spread their propaganda, legitimize their ideologies, and gain recruits and followers. In our transition from European martial music to the Middle East, we might as well hear a militant Nasheed from Bosnia. Fetun Karib, victory is near.
Sablën që në shengor jetino qas plamu bitke kova treja.
Now let's go country by country in a semi-alphabetical order. In Afghanistan, we know the Taliban has taken back control, so here is Jundallah featuring footage from the Taliban Special Forces in 2023, garnering 1 million views in 10 months since release.
دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني سائر في طريق الحق يا جند الله.
Here is another Taliban banger, Tawheed, La ilaha illallah. It's got 4.8 million views since April 1st. Salahuddin to remind them of their fond days of butchering crusaders.
جئناك يا أرض الملاحم بالفدا.
I found a few from Iraq, Saddam Hussein days. Here's something from the fascist Ba'athist Party era, some stomping on US dollar bills. May it fall. Ba'athist, Iraqi, anti-American jam.
رواتها
Welcome, O destined battle. Glory to the banner of Islam. 1.5 million views.
لبيك واجعل من جماجمنا لعزك سلما. لبيك إسلام البطولة كلنا نفدي الحمى.
Flames of war.
جاك متحدي وحدينا تتودد ودي. جاك يا شيطان ردي. جاك يا الحلف الردي. جاك متمدي تجريد المال والوعي. وأنت في الميدان يدي يا سعود المعتدي.
Jerusalem in our eyes. Shout out to the Intercast channel. Really digging the hilarious mock Soviet theme.
القدس في العيون ونحن قادمون. القدس في العيون ونحن قادمون. سينقلب صهيون. سينقلب صهيون.
Al-Quds fil Ayun.
القدس في العيون ونحن قادمون. القدس في العيون.
Then came the toppling of Saddam Hussein and the ongoing ISIS insurgency, which I heard ticked up recently. So here is something from the Iraqi insurgents. The bayonets waved. From the crippled, propped up modern Iraqi state apparatus, ISIS, don't open your mouth, an attempt to take control of the situation. With 2.8 million views and 173,000 subscribers. The Kurds of Iraq are more moderate, and much needs to be discussed about the egalitarian de facto state of Rojava in future videos. Here is a funny parody song mocking the ISIS ideology. We are ISIS.
قراني من بيقع أميركا مقاقع قراني من بيقع رقما لبوني نحنا كيفان من باري قطرة زمان من قلو كتر كيفان من باري قطرة أشتي لنا من خطرة داعشين داعشين بالزنير بعيدوشين.
Speaking of parodies, Israel's comedy apparatus has really been on point lately. Gaza's sky is black, but Qatar is always sunny. Shows where all the international money goes. Instead of Singapore, we get Afghanistan. Here is an Ottoman Empire military march to remind us of where the Mideast region started in martial music. 5.2 million times this military march was viewed. Enjoy a brief mashup of 3 ISIS bangers scoured from the dark YouTube. Nasheed Jihad, 1.4 million views.
أمة الإسلام بشرى إننا نلمح فجرا في شباب قد أشادوا صحوة للدين كبرى. أمة الإسلام بشرى إننا نلمح فجرا في شباب قد أشادوا صحوة للدين كبرى.
Abu Ali Ana Maradun, 3.7 million views.
أنا مرض أنا الداء ومني تأتي أوجاع وليس لمدمني أبدا من الأخيار أتباع. أنا مرض أنا الداء ومني تأتي أوجاع وليس لمدمني أبدا من الأخيار أتباع. أنا مرض أنا الداء ومني تأتي أوجاع وليس لمدمني أبدا.
Nasheed Abba Al-Islam, 1.4 million views.
أضحى الإسلام لنا دينا وجميع الكون لنا وطنا. توحيد الله لنا نور أعددنا الروح له سكنا.
أضحى الإسلام لنا دينا وجميع الكون لنا وطنا.
Pakistan, home of beautiful Qawwali singing, sitar and tabla, here is a motivational nasheed, Zalzil Zalzala, 590,000 views in only 1 month, 250,000 subscribers.
تقدم أيها المسلمون.
تقدم زلزل زلزلة وزلزل زلزل زلزلة. زلزل زلزلة زلزل أمن إسرائيل. बढ़ो बन जाओ زلزلة زلزلوں का.
We see communist songs. On October 17th, 320,000 views in 2 months.
حمل أوتيلات كتائب أبو علي جوازات مزورات. كتائب أبو علي جوازات مزورات. الأسمر والقرعان رددوا بأعلى صوت.
Propaganda from around the world randomly comes into the hate feed. This all-Arabic banger comes from a Kuwait channel. 113,000 views in 1 month.
كل النفوس بذاك الكوكب الساري وقد دنا موعد الإصباح فاحتفلت أرض الرباط بإصباح وأنوار. لقد بدا كوكب التحرير فابتهجت كل النفوس بذاك الكوكب الساري.
In alphabetical order, we are up to so-called Palestine. We have been noticing a concerted social media campaign to whitewash the savage surprise holiday attack that involves sexual violence and unspeakable atrocities committed against innocent, peace-loving humans. We are speaking about kibbutz residents and attendees of a psytrance techno-rave festival. Salam Ya Mahdi has recently gained 2.8 million views since posting 2 months ago.
والعين فداك يا شاغل روحي.
Saladin motif and beating back the Crusaders is a recurring theme, and people like the Chechens are doing it today. Here is a Russian video about Saladin. Salahuddin, 372,000 views.
بأن أبات نذود ذود القشاعم. نحن الذين وطئنا بالخيل عرش الأعاجم. بالخيل عرش الأعاجم.
Now on to Syria, which has de facto control of its neighbor Lebanon, and is held together by a thread through Iranian support of former ophthalmology student turned butcher Hafez el-Assad. His turn from a medical student in Europe who had the potential to help the vision of humans into a mass slaughterer could be the subject of an entire episode. Here is some pro-Hafez Assad propaganda. This one really rocks. Hashem, Syria, and Bashar. God, Syria, and Bashar.
وجامع متحدين والمحطي عنوان الدين وملايين السوريين وما بدهن إلا بشار. نحتاج يا بشار.
And 2 versions of Watan Sharaf Ikhlas, Homeland, Honor, Sincerity.
صوتها وخلى الدنيا كلها تسمع الله أكبر رددها سوريا والله ما بترجع مش فينك يا الغالي عالي عليك يا سوريا إلهي
Here is some anti-Assad insurgency stuff. Free Syrian Army Tribute. Kula inaha.
كل كأسا وخذي كل صغار قالوا إنها وعد نحن عصبة الأسد فأتاهم زحفنا زائلون للأبد ثم نادوا حسمت إنها قد رسمت فأتاهم ردنا صعقت بل سحقت قالوا إنها وعد نحن عصبة الأسد فأتاهم زحفنا زائلون للأبد ثم نادوا حسمت.
Syrian National Front for Liberation song. O land of epics with redemption.
يتقول الإرجاف قولا آثما سنبيدهم ونعيد ما تهدما النصر حتف ناله من وحدنا جئناك يا أرض الملاحم بالفداء.
Get Out Bashar, Syrian Revolution song.
يا بشار ويا بشار وطز فريق وطز يلي في حيك
I did not get a chance to include more than one comedy thing from the Kurds, or Rojava in northern Syria, the egalitarian de facto state, but that whole thing, including the entire Murray-Bookchin connection, I would love to explore in the future. The elephant in the room, Gaza. With all the nauseating obsessiveness of a psycho ex, unable to choose between being a Singapore instead of an Afghanistan. Since most of these nations were created in the 20th century out of the shell of the Ottoman Empire, with the blessing of the League of Nations, the national anthems represent a sense of national struggle for meaning. The Hatikvah captivates me every time I hear it because of the beautiful message of hope. Here is a heavy metal version of Hatikvah, played by an Indian guitarist. Ofra Hazar's Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, Jerusalem of Gold, has a similar uplifting and inspiring effect. The song Bayraktar, which gained prominence as a patriotic song in Ukraine during the conflict with Russia, is a unique example of a song becoming a symbol of national pride and resistance. In the Middle East, there have been so many songs used for propaganda purposes, but they differ significantly in context and content. I also would like to further explore the story of German rapper Desodog, who released incendiary raps, then went on to become an international terrorist wanted for executions. Discovering the often frightening genre of jihadist song, I made the startling discovery that YouTube is actively disseminating and profiting off of this poison. Some of the view counts in short times after posting, and the high rate of missing deleted tracks and ISIS mixes, were quite the eye-opener. The glorification of martyrdom no es bueno. Besides Iraq and Syria, I noticed a lot of ISIS stuff on YouTube with huge view counts. So many scenes of oaths of allegiance to the Imam by ISIS, Nasheeds used by ISIS for propaganda and to promote their ideology, spreading to places like Africa through Boko Haram, countless songs of jihad between ISIS, Hezbollah, and Hamas. It's impossible to keep track with all these quote-unquote viral bangers going down. In 2006, Prime Minister of Israel Ariel Sharon decided to disengage from Gaza and forcibly evict thousands of people who peacefully farmed in the Gaza Strip because a macabre calculation was made that these humans were not worth the cost of defending their lives. The lives of these families were turned upside down, and my bandmate and friend Menashe Yaakov Wagner wanted to do something about it. He organized more than a dozen bands to put together an album of songs of love and resistance and donate the proceeds to victims of the forced expulsion. A 3,000-year-old Jewish community was extinguished, and the end result was that their farms and their millions of dollars of high-tech agricultural equipment were cannibalized, and the areas converted into scorched earth for terror rocket launches against population centers of the Israeli neighbors of the Hamas terrorists. I am convinced that petroleum has fueled a lot of this violence, stunting education and the development of diverse economies in Arab petrostates. It would help if they allowed women to play a more prominent role in the cultural and financial sphere. If they had to go back to pearl diving, weaving carpets, and growing pistachios and apricots, they likely would have less funds for fighter planes and money for Katyusha rockets to launch at their civilian neighbors and Abrahamic cousins. Perhaps on September 12, 2001, we should have had a Manhattan Project for renewable energy. We could have better spent all those trillions squandered to defense contractors in Afghanistan and Iraq on a more sustainable future. Israel is so important to the world because of all their vital research in renewable energy and drylands agriculture. Either way, the future, in the short range, sadly looks like more armed struggle along with the jingoistic songs to excite each side, instead of the cooperation the world really needs. The Harrison Sings Morrison channel will be alive to report on the ramifications of all the developments. We can leave you for now with a dubstep version of Hatikvah, the national anthem of beautiful and resilient Israel. Ciao for now.
Thank you.